You're listening to Weird and Dead. I'm Megan Wetherell.
And I'm Amy Atwater, and today we are pivoting from our normal content and pace to talk about something a lot more serious in paleontology.
We're talking about the Epstein files, paleontology, and the unfortunate fact that those two things are currently connected.
This is a pretty serious episode, and we want our listeners to take care, so here are the content warnings.
We are talking about sexual harassment and assault, and we do give specifics, both our own and those that other people have given us permission to talk about for them.
We are talking about pedophilia in the general sense of the Epstein files, but not specific incidences.
We talk about a continued frustrating resistance to action that permeates the scientific community and specific organizations, and how that can continue to harm paleontology and paleontologists.
Having dealt with this stuff for over a decade, we have some coping mechanisms that might seem a little unusual or jarring, including sarcasm, joking, and inappropriate laughter.
We also talk about dissociation and other ways that our bodies have dealt with these topics over time, so please listen with care. Okay, so here we are.
Okay, well,
two paleontologists with drinks in their hands.
With drinks. I made it through dry January and February. I'm like, nope. I did good, so I don't have to be perfect.
We're here to talk to you about the Epstein files.
And paleontology. Yeah. Who would have thunk it?
Shockingly related.
Grossly related. Unfortunately related. No other jokes about being related.
No. I mean, honestly, that would be the lesser crime at this point.
I'm off to a bad. We don't know. We don't know. We were not there. We're going to say this a lot. Yeah. So we do Weird and Dead, obviously, the podcast folks are listening to. We have a lot of fun doing this, but this is not the first time that you and I have been co-collaborators on science communication projects, right? This is our current project. However, back in 2012, when you started, yeah, I know, we're old. Back when you started your graduate program at University of Oregon, where I was finishing up my undergrad, we lived together, and we started our blog, Mary Anning's Revenge, which really, I mean, still had our same ridiculous sense of humor. Remember when we were trying to find, they were trying to find women to carry a Neanderthal embryo, and we just took pictures of our butts, and we were like, hey!
Yeah, exact same horrible sense of humor.
Yeah. And also, we largely talked about, Mary Anning's Revenge. Mary Anning, a famous paleontologist, but never got her due credit then or now, really. And the whole point was standing up and speaking to issues that face all people, but especially underrepresented voices in the sciences, such as being a woman in paleontology. And we were both dealing with different aspects of that and brought our sense of humor to it, but it also got really fucking depressing, and
it did.
A bummer.
I like to think of it as paleontologists and geologists weren't nice to Mary Anning, and so now you have to fucking deal with us.
Yeah.
We could have been so nice and so happy if this problem got fixed over a century ago, but it didn't. And as a result, our blog, we spent a lot of time talking about cool dead stuff, the same sort of stuff we do now, about weird paleontology art that we were making. There was a very long section dedicated to Jell-O shots and paleosol-themed cupcakes.
You made the Grand Canyon of Jell-O shots.
Yeah,
it was
out
so
of
cool.
alcoholic Jell-O.
It was so cool.
But also, I think when we had talked about it, I recall that we were really more interested in also talking very strongly about some of the issues that we were facing and some of the issues we knew our friends were facing, and talking about some of the research behind bias of various kinds in paleontology and geology. But that is stuff that is, God, it is hard to be bogged down in for forever. Yep. So when we started this podcast, we were like, well, if it comes up, we'll talk about it. Right. We'll do a special episode on the fucking Epstein files.
Right. I think we were I think I've been we'll take a more subtle approach. This is not going to be subtle.
This is not going to be subtle.
I'm pissed off. Yeah. We're pissed off. We're pissed off. I'm pissed off. And I have felt, ever since I got this news, which you were the first one to text me, and now since then about 12 other people have reached out to me with this news, I have felt really elevated and stressed out and trouble sleeping and feeling hey, I don't want to go back down that road where we were so bogged down with these depressing numbers and figures and data. And I feel a sense of responsibility, and I feel like I have tangential stories and experiences to this topic that I haven't really publicly talked about because I've been very afraid of blowback and being accused of hearsay and the whisper network, which is largely the only fucking thing we have to warn each other, which has been notoriously frustrating. And we're going to talk a lot about that today. You know, I reached out to some friends of mine who are not even in paleontology, reached out to me and was like, what the fuck? And I was like, dude, look at the shit I found when I worked at that museum. And they were like, you have to say something. And I was like, okay, all right. So we're not here to like label anyone or point fingers or do any accusations of any sort, but we're going to let y'all know what's been going on in the field of paleontology right now, some of the different components going on with that, and some of our own personal experiences that are relevant, and maybe we'll tell some jokes, maybe not. So
we'll probably laugh inappropriately because that's our stress response also.
Yeah. And so here we go. Yeah, I mean, Jack Horner, famous paleontologist, is in the Epstein files, and that came to light this weekend. Many email communications spanning many years, multiple years of this. So you were the one who told me about it. So how'd you hear about it?
Group chat.
Yeah.
I have a group chat with a bunch of the ladies that go to the Western Science Center conference, which is the only conference that I go to now because of some of the reasons we will discuss today. It's one of the few conferences where I feel safe. And so of course, that's also the group chat where I think earlier that day, I told them that I found a pair of testicles in the field because the sheep are losing their testicles.
Oh my God. Oh,
that's
you mean
normal.
like legitimate testicles. I thought you meant like the end of a femur or something like that. No,
I'm sorry. I thought that I talked to you about this so frequently that I didn't bother to send you a picture. That's my mistake. Next time, we have 3 bomber lambs that are boys. One of them's already lost his balls. When the next 2 go, I'll send you some photos of it just for you.
Aww.
Anyway, so like that's the normal stuff that we talk about.
Right.
Yeah, the group chat was like, oh my God, Jack Horner is in the Epstein files. So then I went and looked it up because you can technically be in the Epstein files and that's not bad.
Sure.
For example, I don't like Don Brothrow. He does not like me. I Googled his name in the Epstein files. It's like, come on. Nope. He's got many other problems. He is mentioned twice. But he's mentioned because he was part of a skeptics conference that Jeffrey Epstein was stoked about.
Right.
So Jeffrey Epstein, for a lot of various reasons that we will probably not talk about, was into science and scientists. So sometimes you do just show up because he was stoked about it. Neither of us are in the Epstein files. Like that's not a thing.
I haven't checked. I should have.
I did. I looked for you. You're not. I thought I was going to maybe find some juicy gossip of like Jack Horner being like, God, that Amy Atwater's such a bitch.
She sucks.
Nope, nothing.
I don't know. Yeah, never mind. I don't know how he felt about me. He does know who I am, and I don't love that.
Yeah.
But anyway, so for the few folks who may not know who Jack Horner is, I mean, he is by far and away the most well-known person in paleontology, and it's been that way for a couple decades.
Yeah, pressing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. So he is really mostly famous because he served as the technical advisor for the first however many first 5 Jurassic Park films. And supposedly he served as at least partial inspiration for the lead character, Dr. Alan Grant. A lot of folks since seeing this connection have said that the intro to that movie, which I don't really know Jurassic Park, neither of us are Jurassic Park paleontologists, so like I don't know it by heart, but apparently that makes the beginning of the movie even like creepier, but I don't.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. Why?
When we start talking about
we'll get there.
Funding stuff, I think we can bring that up because I'm not a huge Jurassic Park fan, but I do really like the first movie. It scared the shit out of me as a kid.
Yeah,
and I had nightmares about raptors for most of my childhood. But yeah, there are some interesting aspects of the way that those projects are funded. And apparently, I don't see a lot of Jack Horner in Alan Grant. I think that that's a story that maybe someone made up to make Jack Horner feel better about himself. The one place I do see it is taking funding from bad sources because that happens in the movie. And admittedly, that source gets eaten in the movie. But I guess Jeffrey Epstein did die.
Oh my God. See, here she goes.
perfect parallels.
Still would it be better to be the lawyer, right? Getting eaten on the shitter.
On the loo.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, is Alan Grant's character, I'm so sorry, guys. This is like, some people will think I shouldn't be. My whole point is you don't have to fucking like these movies to be a paleontologist,
Yeah.
but I don't know them. Aren't the paleobotanist, the chick, and Dr. Alan Grant like an item, even though it's like, are they together?
No, I think technically they're not together. They are, which actually is one of my, I love that that's the case, that you can have two paleontologists who aren't fucking married. She's a paleobotanist, he's a paleontologist, and they're working together on the same project. I think she's technically like his postdoc or grad student, which does not make sense if she's studying leaves, but like still, it is not a romantic relationship between the two of them. Yeah, welcome to our review of the Epstein Files and Jurassic Park.
Because Amy does not really remember. So that's a big reason that Jack is famous. He's also very well known because of his research, which I want to talk about as well at some point. You know, he gets a lot of credit for discovering Maiasaura, the good mother lizard. Also, with that went the parental care hypothesis, so the idea that dinosaurs actually did care for their young. I will show you with citations that is fucking bullshit. He did not discover Maiasaura at all. A woman named Marion Branville discovered Maiasaura, and he took those eggs and he described them and he came up with the name Maiasaura, and then she had to sue him to get those fucking fossils back. It took over like, I think it took like 20, 40 years, like many decades that she had to sue multiple institutions to get those eggs back up to Bynum, where Egg Mountain, this site famously is. So again, like we can dive in, I want to dive into more of his research, but you know, he's given a lot of credit that when you start to dig into it, you see that it's a bit of smoke and mirrors. And I've always, you know, I give credit where credit is due. I admire a con man, you know, I'm not saying that he is, not saying that, I'm saying in my personal history, I admire charisma. I'm not going to lie. However, you have to do good with said, not saying he didn't. Anyway, he's very good at getting credit for things that when you, again, start to dissect it a little bit more, it's a little more complicated than that. And he's also very famous for marrying a 19-year-old undergraduate student of his at Montana State University in 2012 when he was in his late 60s. I think it was, it's
65, I think.
Yes. So that made a lot of news. The photos were interesting, weird, very disturbing. I saw someone on Reddit described as like, who is this Benjamin Franklin motherfucker doing with this? This like beautiful woman. Like, it's just like, and he does. Jack Horner has made the skullet as infamous as you can. Yeah,
it's true. Yeah. That is one defining characteristic of that generation of paleontologists is the skullet, and you can have that on the record as facts. I don't care. That's not hearsay. That's facts. You go to a conference with aging paleontologists, you see 1,000 mullets, and you see inappropriate use of cowboy boots.
Oh my God, I've seen a fucking leather whip at SVP, and I'm just like,
yes, I have as well.
And these, I mean, folks, literally, it's usually fanboys, and they're dressed in all leather. I don't know why. I don't know. I've never done paleontology in leather. I've never worn the leather vests. I've never but they
I've
follow.
worn leather gloves.
Sure. Yeah, I've used like a leather belt.
Fingerless, like a hobo.
Right. Well, it's paleo. But people like, he'd have like crowds follow him at these meetings. Like they're usually younger, usually men who are all dressed like Indiana Jones, which I'm like, that's an archaeologist. I'm so confused. Yeah, straight up leather.
I know, you guys are making the problem worse.
Seriously. But yeah, he's
the
got
problem
quite
of
the look.
being confused for archaeologists, of course.
That problem. That's really what we're here to talk about today.
The serious shit. We're not fucking archaeologists.
So yeah. Do we have that photo? We should look at the Vanessa.
Oh God, do we have to?
Yes, because this is not just for us. We've seen it, but that's their wedding photo.
Okay. Yep, I remember that.
Yep.
I mean, I wasn't there, but I remember seeing this photo.
Well, if you recall, Megan, they got married in January of 2012. SVP, the Society of Vertebrate Paleontology Conference in 2011, was in Vegas. Some folks have said that it happened at the conference, but the records state that doesn't look like they officially got married until January of 2012.
Yeah, I had also heard that they'd gotten married at SVP in October, but...
And maybe they took this picture then.
I don't know.
You know?
I mean, the timing doesn't matter. They got married in 2012. So.
Oh my God, this picture is literally on Google. The first one that pops up is caption, Ben Franklin marries Snooki. I'm sorry, Vanessa. You don't deserve that. You don't look like Snooki.
No, Jack does look like Ben Franklin.
Jack
if Ben
does
Franklin
look-
died and then was resurrected. He looks kind of like he's melting.
Fucking-
I think that's maybe the pixelation here, but like all the same.
Oh God. I don't know if I should tell the joke that I know I made. I know exactly where I was when we heard that Jack married Vanessa.
Were you measuring things?
Probably. I was in.
No, that would have been an SVP.
Right. Oh yeah. I was gonna say that's what we were doing. Let's not talk about that. I remember because I was working in Edward's office. That's where I had my little desk. This is my undergrad advisor, your PhD advisor. And he was like, oh my God, he married that 19-year-old. And I was 20 at the time. And I remember immediately going, shucks, I'm too old for him. Like that was my response. So I mean, it was like notoriously, like we all thought it was creepy. And I want to say, like, no one was accusing them of any like wrongdoing, or at least
No.
We all thought it was gross because I'm sorry, in my opinion, it's fucking gross. But she's an adult, and they decided to do this. And
she's an adult. She can be into zombies. Like
Yeah.
it doesn't, it's nothing of what they did is illegal.
Nope.
And I don't think it's immoral either necessarily, without knowing significantly more details than I do.
Sure.
So but it was
yeah.
weird.
It was
it's weird.
right.
It's weird. And I guess she wasn't his student. She was a student in his lab.
Yeah, she took a class
which
with him.
seems like a fine scale distinction.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she had been his student, but wasn't at that time. Listen, guys, you can date students. Wouldn't recommend it. Wouldn't recommend it, but you can. Talk to HR. Talk to HR. And if it is genuinely true love, talk to HR and they'll help you figure out a path where it's not weird and gross. And also wait till they graduate.
Yeah.
Just wait.
Yeah. And he says, and this is in People magazine and all around, that he married her as a bit of my interpretation, a fuck you to his institution, Museum of the Rockies at Montana State University.
Don't do that. That's not a great way of approaching it.
Right. And he claims that marrying her is what led to him being pushed out of Museum of the Rockies, where he retired in 2016, and claimed and went to media sources saying it was essentially a conspiracy, and that the executive director and the director of paleontology, who were married, were forcing him out. And I've got some stories about them if we have time.
Didn't he get divorced in 2016 as well?
I mean, we don't know, but the timing would indicate that it was performative. He calls himself like a contrarian, like that he's a rebel. I spent my evening last night going through his Instagram, which was depressing as all fuck. And yeah, I love it when like old white men in positions of power are like, I just always go against the grain, and I'm a rebel, and I'm like, on what fucking planet are you
rebelling against what?
Yeah, like he's like, I challenge authority, and I'm like, how marrying a 19-year-old? That's the most fucking like midlife crisis or like past midlife crisis thing that you can do. That's not challenging.
That's classic.
That's right.
Old dude. Yeah. That's classic old dude.
But isn't it classic old dude to also think doing that is the challenge? Like they don't get it. The self-awareness is
radical.
I mean, I'm not going to say anything about my own father in that, but he has some of these traits that are also interesting. So, yeah, I mean, we'll probably touch on the Vanessa side of things. She still is somewhat involved in paleontology.
Oh, yeah. No, she's working as a paleontologist.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I've heard it's been, through the grapevine, I've heard things have been bumpy and things have been, interesting. I can't confirm any of those details. I heard from my...
That's also paleontology.
Right.
Who doesn't have a bumpy career path in paleo, but...
So I worked at Museum of the Rockies. One of the reasons I feel passionate about doing this is to cleanse my soul of that.
Yeah.
And to just be transparent about it.
Because he was gone by the time that you were there.
Correct.
When did you start working at the Museum of the Rockies?
I started working at Museum of the Rockies on like November 4th or 6th of 2017. He retired.
So the following year.
Yeah, in 2016, I think like the spring, summer of 2016. And yeah, we can talk about what I was told literally during my interview. I guess what I can say is from everything I've known and heard, when I saw that he was in the Epstein files, I, like many others, were not in the least bit surprised.
I mean, I was surprised because it feels like a worse level of stuff. Like just the implication of being in the Epstein files, not anything he necessarily did in the Epstein files. But if I had to pick a paleontologist that I thought was going to be in the Epstein files, yeah, it would have been Jack Horner.
Yeah.
And then, but
yeah, you know what?
He's not
that
in there
is
either.
the name. I was hanging out with Josh Lively this weekend at Dino Fest, and when I told him, he's like, yeah, just like, and I was like, hey, I was on that investigation too. I've been a part of 3 campus investigations about, luckily, I mean, luckily I can't, I'm not going to speak for you on this, but luckily I was not a direct victim of any of these. Well, that's not true. One of them I was. 2 of them, University of Oregon, I was more of a witness. University of Texas, I was more of a witness. When it happened at Montana State University, I was one of the victims there. So yeah, I've been a part of like 3 of these investigations, and they are not fun.
They are not fun.
No.
I have also been a part of these investigations. I have been part of these investigations through the private sector. Then I was part of the investigations at University of Oregon. And yeah, it's not fun to be a victim of sexual harassment and assault, but it's also not fun to have to talk to people about it.
And they make it deliberately challenging to do so. And I'm saying I went through pregnancy discrimination at the USGS, and I had to fight tooth and nail. And even though the system was in place, being the federal government, all of the hoops and obstacles that they put on me within time limits and details and how much time, and making me repeat the same stories like 5 or 6 times to different people who are, it's like, it takes every little bit out of you. It's a huge time suck. It reopens every single, the worst things that have ever happened to you. They want you to describe in the most bland detail over and over again to all these
multiple times, because they want to make sure you're not lying. They want to make sure that you're telling the same story over and over again. And what a way to relive the traumatizing event over and over and over again. Yeah.
And so folks are just like, oh, well, people didn't report it. And it's like, well, first off, a lot of people do report, and we're going to talk about that in the context of the Society of Vertebrate Paleontology. And we can't talk about that without addressing the fact that the reporting process is notoriously problematic. And this is well documented. We're not the only ones who see this and understand this. This is relatively well known. So it's complicated. And I was luckily never an investigation involved with anything with Jack, because again, I started working at Museum of the Rockies a year
We're talking about completely other people, because that's how fucking pervasive this problem is.
Unfortunately, yeah. I mean, on one hand, I was just in front of Jim Kirkland, and I was like, Greg Ritalik, Don Prothero, and he was like, whoa, I had no idea. And I'm like, what a fucking privilege. Well, how nice that you don't have to hear about what young women tell me about. I mean, we're going to bleep all these names. It's just.
I think we cannot bleep Greg Ritalik. I think maybe it's time to, that's what I was a part of at University of Oregon, is after years of sexual harassment, he groped my boob at a party.
At a fucking, it's like a department event. Yes.
And I just remember during this has happened, not that specific event, but that sort of shit has happened to me. It's happened to you multiple times, to the extent where now I fully dissociate when things like that happen to me, which made it even worse when I was trying to give testimony, because I just remember at one point looking at my email inbox after they'd started the investigation and seeing 2 emails in a row. And one of them was from a mom who wanted me to talk to her daughter about becoming a scientist. And the next was from HR at University of Oregon asking me to confirm the dates on an event that I had already told them. I was so dissociated. I can tell you vaguely what happened. I cannot tell you when. I can't tell you what time. I don't know. I was out of it. I was a fucking zombie. I was out of my body.
You were protecting yourself. Yeah, you were going into fight or flight and shutting down to just be able to get through, which means your memory is going to be not as at its best.
But that's part of being a woman in STEM. I feel like is that disconnect where everyone wants to get more women in STEM, and for what?
So
the meat grinder?
Right. Right. We don't want to actually protect the ones that are already in STEM, which would make it safe for more people to join STEM. Yeah, and I remember...
Although you and I have a good success rate.
Okay. And we might have to bleep all this.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. He got himself fired, and like, yeah, what he did to me was fucked up, but that was actually not even, I think, what got him in the end. He was well known for just really some sketchy shit that he was pulling. But I do remember when HR they had a climate survey, and they were talking about like, okay, so what's it like? Like, what's it like with... And I was like, oh, well, he gets like crazy drunk. Like, he makes us go to his country club, which for every like staff related workshop or dinner or meeting, Lord knows the number of times I was at that country club, and he would get fucking plastered. I mean, this man, I've never seen someone drink like this guy would drink. And then he'd get handsy, and then he would give us these long hugs and sloppy kisses on our cheeks. And I remember when I was telling HR about that, and they were like, well, yeah, but did he grab you? And I was like, are you asking if he like literally put his hands on my ass or my tits? Like, no, he just kissed my face drunkenly. And they were like, oh, okay. And I was like, what the fuck?
I know, right? Yeah.
Like, oh my God. Oh my God. Like, oh, okay, so that's chill. I mean, it is Montana. Everyone has a drinking problem in Montana, so.
I don't get like that when I get drunk. I go to sleep. So, or I play hide and seek and don't tell people that we're playing, which just means I run away.
It's called an Irish exit, Megan.
Different problems. Irish exit.
I'm like that too. I would just disappear. Yeah. I just I take a long bath. We just are, we're built from different stock. So let's chat about what is with...
Right, let's get back to...
Anyway, so Jack Horner is in the Epstein files. It isn't just one correspondence. In fact, let's see, on Reddit, Benjamin Mueller, who is also on Blue Sky, put together a timeline of Jack Horner and the Jeffrey Epstein contact based on the Department of Justice newest release, where he said he goes through about 470 Epstein files and looking for things for Jack Horner, his MSU email address, or the phrase dino chicken. And then like cites a bunch of them. The one that has been cited the most, so a lot of the Montana newspapers have picked this up, and the thing that has been cited the most is that Jack went to visit Epstein on his ranch in New Mexico. We see the tickets. There's a confirmed that they were paid for. We can see the names. Everything. Jack definitely went. Jack has said he went. He's made a statement. He has confirmed that he did go. And in that email thanking Jeff Epstein, he refers to spending time with you and the girls. And he consistently refers to it as you and the girls. And he ends his email on September 1st, 2012 with, please give all the girls my very best wishes, and to you, whom I envy. Thanks again, Jack.
Yep.
So, he claims in his statement that, I think you have the screenshot of.
I did Google this because I don't know very much about Jeffrey Epstein other than, like the biggest news headlines. No, they don't have kids. Or maybe they have a secret baby, but that's like, oh, your daughters. Yeah, congratulations on your daughters.
Wow.
No.
I think it's even... I think
girls,
it's really worse in Jack's statement that he says, yes, I went there. And he says, there were 4 female students who I regret referring to as the girls. So now, many, many years later, 14 years later, 13 and a half years later, he is claiming they were actually students. But we don't have...
He's claiming they're college students, who were introduced to me as college students, 2 of whom claimed to be adept in genetics. That's from his statement posted on February 5th.
On Facebook, right?
Which is when we're filming this.
And I mean, it sounds like there was some interest in... I wasn't surprised at all that Jack's explanation started with how hard it is to get funding in the sciences. I predicted that would be his excuse, is that he was just trying to find funding, and scientific funding is so hard to come by. You just have to bleed the beast and get the funds where you can, because I literally write grants for a living. I've raised almost almost $750,000 fucking dollars this year on an exhibit. So I'm sorry. I feel really good about all the foundations and organizations I have worked with to make that happen. So I'm not the right person to be like, oh, it's so hard. You and I have both been awarded NSF grants. You can get funding to do your science if it's good science. I mean, at least in my experience, that's my opinion.
Yeah. So maybe we should talk about the link to Alan Grant. So Alan Grant, fictional person, Jurassic Park. The way that Jurassic Park, this is a review of Jurassic Park for Amy Atwater, who does not remember the movie.
And fucking proud.
Yeah, the movie starts with the crazy benefactor flying a helicopter into the dig where they are using technology that does not exist to view a dinosaur under the ground.
I have me about
used
it
the real
time.
version of that technology,
So
and it does not look like that. Way harder to interpret.
You mean it's not a perfect... Oh, the one thing I do know is it's a velociraptor specimen, and they're in Montana. Suck my dick, that's a Mongolian taxon. Come on!
I mean, I've used that sort of like ground penetrating radar. It's still hard to identify pipes, let alone a velociraptor. So anyways, flies in, does some fake science, and he basically informs the two paleontologists that he's willing to fund them for an amount that I think it was like $100,000, which seemed insane in the 90s, but now is like, that's a year. But as long as they just come to his park, where people end up getting, spoiler alert for Jurassic Park, eaten and killed.
Okay, that part I know.
His island.
Oh my God.
It's a wealthy benefactor flies in and promises them money if they come to his fucking island. Jack Horner, we don't know if he went to Jeffrey Epstein's island. We just know that he went to the ranch.
We're not saying
still.
Anything. We are just presenting this curious evidence for every person to make their own decision and connection to. But great. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's all this like genetic modification and engineering, which I've heard that Jeffrey Epstein was very interested in. I think a lot of this starts to get really close to a eugenics kind of argument, which is...
Oh, not close.
Ugh.
But yeah. So Jack Horner is not the only person mentioned. I mean, obviously, not the only person mentioned in the Epstein files. He's
just paleo.
He's
not
not
our
the
president.
only scientist mentioned in the Epstein files. He's not the only paleontologist mentioned in the Epstein files. But what he is mentioned for quite a lot is this Chickenosaurus project. And when you look at like Jeffrey Epstein's interactions with science, it seems very much like he had a very strong interest in science and scientists. Like a lot of the emails where things like Don Prothero popped up are just like conferences that it seemed like maybe Jeffrey was interested in attending and watching, or like letting Jeffrey know that something was interesting. Like it's not necessarily, that scientist knew that something was going on. I think this is the case with Neil Schumann, is that he was invited to go do something and he said no. Yeah. And that's why he's in the Epstein files.
But he's still in there. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But like, it sounds like Jeffrey, in addition to curating politicians, he also seemed to curate quite a lot of scientists. And it sounds like part of that is, his interest in science. Part of it is his interest in controlling people. I imagine that if you need somebody to vouch for you, it probably looks better sometimes if a scientist of some kind vouches for you. And part of it was that these rich motherfuckers all seem to be really interested in eugenics. And so a lot of that research was about genetics and specifically getting at things like genetic programming. And even then, Epstein did not fund Jack Horner's Dino Chicken project because he thought it wasn't gonna work.
But he did eventually pay $10,000 to
for
Museum of the Rockies for a conference in which that was like some of the topics. Right.
But there was someone who did fund the Chickenosaurus project, which, by the way, we just double checked. Doesn't seem like anything has actually come out of the Chickenosaurus project. There's no publications that we could find.
Oh, by the way, to just explain the Chickenosaurus, he's quite well known for these pretty kooky ideas, or just, again, he's a big personality, whether or not. Anyway, he wants to essentially reverse engineer a chicken back into a T-Rex. And he believes that this is possible.
Learn the lessons of Jurassic Park.
Right. Yeah. And I've heard that even places like Tyson and all these other chicken processing plants are interested in some of this research because they do want to make bigger chickens.
Of course.
For us to eat.
Yeah. Of course.
also fucked up. So
yeah, he had this project where he wanted to reverse engineer a dinosaur out of a chicken. It's called the Chickenosaurus. That's not like a derogatory term. I think he uses it, but it's a crazy project. Scientifically, it sounds pointless and stupid, and that's my opinion. But also probably it's facts. I think that's why he probably couldn't get funding anywhere, except through Nathan Myhrvold. I realized I didn't know how to say his last name, but I decided that I was going to refuse to look it up because guess who else is in the fucking Epstein files? This dude, Nathan Myhrvold, who is he used to work for Bill Gates. He's like a big tech guy.
Yeah.
He then went and like helped fund a whole lot of paleontology stuff, not just Jack Horner stuff, but other people's stuff too. Also involved with Robert Wright, who again, I don't care to learn how to pronounce his fucking last name, but the dude from Toronto who's a piece of shit, you can also Google that.
Notoriously problematic person.
Yep.
Yes. Not one of the names we bleeped earlier because there's lots.
No. And that one has already been public and is public knowledge, but not that anything has been done about it as far as I know. But yeah, this other guy who has also then ended up being a co-author on quite a lot of these paleontology papers. I mean, he's paying for people to like go to Mongolia and stuff and like dig up dinosaurs.
Yep.
And he is not only in the Epstein files, he is in there despite his he denied, I guess, like before this last round of Epstein files came out that like, oh, he had like met Jeffrey Epstein, but they weren't close friends or whatever. And then in the fall, Jeffrey Epstein's birthday book was released. And I guess this birthday book was like just like a set of horrendous signatures and weird letters to the known pervert and child molester Jeffrey Epstein, and it was divided up into things like family, friends, science, and then like a couple other categories. And Nathan was not in science. He was in friends.
Oh.
And his letter, I do have a copy of it. And yeah, like it's long, first off. I think it's longer than Donald Trump's weird letter with the weird illustration of the girl's body. It starts out with, I've agonized long and hard about what to write for your birthday. And then it goes into la 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 la. A few years ago, somebody at a party asked me, does Jeffrey Epstein manage your money? I replied, no, but he advises me on lifestyle. Eyes bugged out of his head, and he said, really? So, yeah, very funny. Very funny.
The things you choose to brag about.
Yeah, and, you know, I didn't look too deep into it because it was just too depressing, but I wanted to know a little bit more about this dude. I didn't know too much about him because I don't study dinosaurs, so I haven't been on any projects that would be funded by this guy.
Right.
And I found an email from December 21st, 2011 that says, from Nathan Myhrvold to Jeffrey Epstein, are you on the island? I am on the boat in the area and might be able to stop by in the afternoon, which implies to me that it's real casual visiting Jeffrey's fucking notorious island. So
if you're in the inner circle.
If you're in the inner circle.
Potentially. Hypothetically.
Yeah.
When was the birthday letter written?
Oh, I don't know. Is there a date on this one?
So
no, I don't know, but
that's
you can
where
Google it, I'm sure.
We gotta, right, like we have to, like for timeline wise, so some folks might be saying too, I mean, Jack's, his other excuse besides the fact that he said it was that they were students, not girls, and he was envious because of the fossils that they found on his land.
Let's read his statement really fast. Why don't I read that section? So he's got a long statement, Jack Horner, because of course people have been calling him out for several days now. And he's got a long letter, la-da-da-da-da, but he says, and I feel like this is a very important aspect, you know, the files that have been released show him corresponding with Jeffrey Epstein in 2012.
And 2016.
And 2016.
Or at least with someone from Jeffrey's estate.
Yes. And so he says that I was aware he had been previously charged with soliciting a prostitute and had served a sentence, but I was not aware of any additional allegations or misconduct. I want to make it perfectly clear that I knew nothing more than that. Exclamation point. No amount of money in the world would have lured me to meet with a known sexual predator. Exclamation point. So Jeffrey Epstein was not convicted of prostitution. I'm using finger quotes here. He was convicted of prostitution of a minor. And that's...
And in what year, Megan?
2008.
2008?
Mm-hmm.
But Jack was talking him to 2012.
Mm-hmm.
So Jack just wasn't, oh,
Yep.
wow.
But Jack
he just
somehow
oopsies.
missed the word
Forgot,
minor.
missed it.
Yeah, he missed
Which
it.
was all over the news. All over the
Mhm.
news when Jeffrey Epstein was convicted because he went to prison for this.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So Jack is saying he wasn't aware. It was just,
Yes.
he knew he was doing sex crimes, just not with
He just skipped
his
the headline components that said
with
minor,
a minor.
Which, listen, I have
Okay.
some very liberal feelings on the legality of prostitution, but
Sure.
Jeffrey Epstein's a really fucking rich man. If he's going to prison for prostitution, it's not because he was just visiting a nice lady, you know? Like, that's... And also, if I am going to be talking to someone that when I Google them, prostitution comes up, I'm going to do some fucking digging. And I was alive in 2008. I was graduating college. The internet fucking existed. You
Yes.
could Google this. This was
Yep.
not hidden information
It would
or
have
hard
been-
to find.
Yes, it was very much out there. It was very public.
So that's
and
bullshit.
right, to have knowledge that he was soliciting a prostitute, it just
Mhm.
like, if you learned that would have been in the exact, I would suspect that would be in the exact same context of the fact that it is with a minor, with a girl, right
Mhm.
here. And what does he say about his use of the word girls in his email?
Yeah, so he says...
I really did.
Oh, yeah.
I love that you included the exclamation points because I was like, no, bro, this is not the place. Like, this is not the time.
Those present beside the ranch manager and his wife included Epstein, a chef, Epstein's secretary, and 4 women who were introduced to me as college students, 2 of whom claimed to be adept in genetics. There's nothing weird, inappropriate, or out of the ordinary. So he's saying that the girls that he's referencing are just these women.
College students. And later in Jack's response, he says, I now understand the students may have been victims of Epstein. So, make of that what you will.
I will say that I did look through the Epstein files for the words fossil and dinosaur, and the things that primarily pop up are this series of letters between him and Jack Horner, and also some interviewing stuff where he was interviewing a replacement personal assistant, and he was being told that he should really interview this woman because in addition to meeting the criteria, she also said she was interested in fossils, ! So, like, Jeffrey, his recruitment for scientists also extended to personal assistants, I guess.
Right. And then I found it very interesting in Jack's reply about just keep reading it with the order of what happened that day. I just found some of it to be such I was just like, oh, okay, that's weird, but all right.
So yeah, he meets him. He tries to present and convince Epstein to fund his dumb Chickenosaurus idea. Epstein declined my request, stating he was not persuaded of its feasibility. Blah, 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 blah. We had dinner, and then everyone scattered. Nothing weird or suspicious. The next day, I took an ATV and drove around the ranch looking at the geology so I would be able to explain what they would be looking at, which this was 2012. Geologic maps did exist, but Rock D, which is a very fun geologic map app, did not. So I guess he had to go look at things. Later in the day, I took them out fossil hunting in what I determined to be some nearshore estuarine Cretaceous sediments, where we picked up some shells, other odds and ends. Later, Epstein led us all to an igneous cliff that had petroglyphs on it, and then they're going to go look at a railroad bed. Doesn't just tell us who they is, seemed genuinely interested in the rocks, the fossils, and science in general. I did not observe any behavior that raised concerns. Feels like every passage ends that way. Epstein and the students went back to the house, and I poked around some more rocks until the ranch manager came to get me. That sounds like he was kicked off the ranch. I was driven back to Albuquerque. Once back in Bozeman, I sent a brief email thanking him and the students, the girls, for allowing me to present my project and to explore the ranch. The ranch was beautiful. I told him how lucky he was to have Cretaceous sediments right there where he could go out and collect fossils. An envious situation, in my opinion. Do you think that's what he was envious about, Amy? Was clams?
Yeah, I mean, we can read this summary email, right? I can read this, right? I've given you pieces, but this is the letter that he's referring to. Dear Jeffrey, many thanks for the invitation to your ranch. I had a great time, especially spending time with you and the girls and seeing your Cretaceous sediments in the old railroad. I don't get too many chances to spend time with non-paleontologists or see things and places like that. that these days. I talked to my postdocs and co-PI when I returned and got the scoop on the transgenic chicken situation, for as you know, I was very surprised to hear that such a thing existed since my co-researchers were saying it didn't. As it turns out, although there was such a thing, there is simply no established protocol to create them, and they are, at present, do not pass on their characteristics, so in effect are useless for our project. What it is that we need to do is to be able to target a specific region of DNA, and that technology is not yet available in birds, but is expected within a year or two, so within our time frame. We hope someone else will do it first so that we can use it, as this technology, homologous recombination of technology, aka knockout technology, is essential to the success of this project. We do not aim to generate chickens that express any extraneous genes, a transgene, but we plan on finding the very small changes in the regulation of existing genes that curb tail, hand, and tooth development. In order to make these small changes in the chicken genome, homologous recombination technology needs to be developed. Anyway, this is the sort of stuff we will discuss in our summit meeting. I very much appreciate your considering of funding this meeting. It is obviously the most important first step, and I thank you for suggesting we do it. Please give all the girls my very best wishes, and to you, whom I envy, thanks again, Jack. Okay, so he briefly says Cretaceous sediments in the first paragraph, but they're not mentioned again when he says whom I envy. So, I mean, sure. Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Totally.
A famous dinosaur paleontologist will envy clams, having access to clams.
Right. A guy who has multiple sites that he runs in Montana that are literally world famous for producing some of the highest density of dinosaur fossils
a man who's
in
gone
the
to
entire
Mongolia
world.
multiple times.
A man who has been, I was told, hated turtles and a lot of other marine things because they weren't dinosaurs, right? And is claiming that, yes, it was those Cretaceous clam. Oh, okay, nope, I'm not going to make a clam joke, Megan. That's definitely, with him literally considered the state paleontologist of fucking Montana, he was really envious of those Cretaceous invertebrates.
What else could there possibly be to be envious of with Jeffrey
Epstein?
I mean, literally, genuinely speaking, there are many other things. And I wouldn't even say the pedophilia could have been the top of his list, but like the money or anything else. But regardless, the fact that his defense is that he's jealous that the guy lives on a ranch with clams is dumb.
It's weird when you think about what Jack had access to and where Jack grew up, which is eastern Montana, and the fossils that Jack has focused on in his career. And the fact is that he could have gone anywhere to work any site at this point. I mean, he is a big name. And so again, it's just like, okay, so you literally have all of Montana paleontology, but you're going to turn around. And I know for a fact that we have, bear paw formation stuff and Western Interior Seaway stuff in Montana, and as far as I know, like those weren't worked as heavily as the Hell Creek, the Judith River, the Two Medicine formation, like the ones that were on his radar and were heavily worked are the dinosaur bearing formations. So I mean, yeah, he did do some stuff with marine reptiles as well, and he's a dino guy. That's what he's been.
He can't get Jeffrey Epstein to fund him.
Nope.
But he can get Nathan Myhrvold to fund him, who has funded his Chickenosaurus project. Nothing has necessarily come of it. But, being in the Epstein files is not necessarily bad. There's no obvious indications of, pedophilia. I think my opinion is that these letters give me the creeps, but that's not necessarily a crime.
Right.
I'm also creeped out by fossils sometimes. So, that's not necessarily a crime. So, SVP, the Society of Vertebrate Paleontology, has, of course, been receiving quite a lot of messages about Epstein files plus Jack Horner, and the fact that Jack Horner is still a member of the Society of Vertebrate Paleontology, has gone to many conferences, was awarded a prize in 2013.
The top honor.
Yeah, the Romer Simpson Prize.
Romer Simpson, yep.
And there's been a lot of requests to maybe reconsider giving him that, to at least ban him from future meetings. And SVP's given us a response, which is...
Yeah, they sure have.
Yeah, classic SVP response.
That's what's inspiring me to be here right now, is that response.
Yep. And by response, we mean fucking non-response, as per usual. So with these societies, you have to understand that they're clubs. They are legally just clubs. They are not supported by private or public institutions. They are groups of people. As we saw with Mary Anning, they are historically allowed to exclude whoever the fuck they want to exclude.
They sure are.
And in their charters, all of these clubs have rules. And those rules say things like you can't sexually harass people, you can't make people super uncomfortable or endanger them in the field, you can't do this, you can't do that. And then they have these forms to report things for when, because, you can't know every paleontologist, you can't know everything about everybody. So they have these forms for you to fill out when there is a problem so that they can go and look into it and then subsequently potentially remove that person from the society and make sure that, especially if they're a safety hazard, that they can't come to future conferences.
Because they're so good at that with SVP.
Yeah. So SVP's statement, do you have it in front of you? Do you want to read some of the pertinent bits?
I got it. To the members of SVP, which I am currently not, and I've never been more proud to not have an active membership, we write to acknowledge the recent media coverage and the public release of documents related to the Epstein investigations, which has prompted questions and concerns within our own society. We are aware that names of some SVP members have appeared in these materials. At this time, we must emphasize that the appearance of a name or even an email in released document does not, in itself, establish wrongdoing. Additionally, many references remain unverified and or lack context. We are closely monitoring developments. Any responses by SVP will be thoughtful, fair, and consistent with our bylines and ethics policies. Okay, I thought I was going to be able to do that without it, and I'm not. Okay, we are committed to the principles of integrity, due process, I can't say this without laughing, due process and respect for all individuals, because I've experienced how they're not on other separate things as of you. Such credible information emerge that warrants action under our existing policies. We will address it promptly and appropriately. Until then, we ask my members rely on verified sources and refrain from speculating and demanding action without due process. Please note that the Ethics Committee does not disclose information regarding the ethics investigations, including findings or sanctions. We appreciate your professionalism and your trust in the Society's leadership as the situation unfolds. And this is my trust in the SVP's leadership right now.
She's flipping off the camera.
Double bird. Yeah, I hear you guys really like bird evolution. So here's a couple more for you.
Yeah. So that response is really bland and lackluster. And if the only problem with Jack Horner was, okay, he had a weird relationship with his student, which led to him being forced out of his job, which, by the way, doesn't fucking happen. So something tells me that it's really hard to get somebody fired. Amy and I both know this.
My intention in all of these cases have been to live my goddamn life and do my job without harassment. It's not my choice that other people have decided to take away my ADA recommendations and accommodations. That's their choice. So. Yeah.
If it was just, okay, he had a weird relationship with his student and he's in the Epstein files, he went to Jeffrey Epstein's ranch and did some paleontology stuff there. If that was the full end of it, this would almost make sense. But I know for a fucking fact, and SVP knows, that it is not, because our friend Wynne McLaughlin has complained multiple times to SVP about Jack Horner groping her at conferences twice.
At the SVP conference, more than once. And did she go through
and more than
the
her,
appropriate...
she watched him grope other people.
Yes. And what did she do? She obviously didn't report it because they just said that we are committed to the principles of integrity, due process, and respect for all individuals.
Yeah, she did report it though, Amy. Isn't that shocking?
Oh, well then, but I have to trust the Society's leadership, Megan. I mean, obviously, well...
Isn't it shocking how all these people in power have no fucking ability to read? I imagine that Jack Horner's next statement is going to be how his dyslexia made it impossible to read.
He couldn't handle
the
emails.
Headlines.
He didn't know. He didn't know that he was emailing Jeff Epstein.
I'm sorry if you have dyslexia. That is a valid
Ron
thing,
Min?
but it's not a good reason for not looking up whether someone is a pedophile or not.
Yeah, you can make your computer read this shit these days. And probably even then, too. Right. So, Wynne, I know for a fact, went through the proper... And I've read from what she has shared on Blue Sky and others that in some cases she didn't even get a response from the Society of Vertebrate Paleontology. No acknowledgement, let alone anything happening. Just no acknowledgement that they even received her complaint. And I know other people who've had that exact same situation.
Yeah, I've had that same thing.
Guess what? Yeah, guess what? They're all women. All of the people who I have heard first fucking hand, about issues and reports to SVP. I know I'm mentioned in one of them because I was, again, tangential to another creep in paleo. And it's like, yeah, no, guess what? That person is good friends with the people in the leadership of SVP. And guess what? Nothing ever came of that one either.
Yeah, I distinctly remember filing on behalf of and who Robert Wrights had like fucking terrorized for years.
Yep.
They had come out to the public. They had like a whole big like news article about it.
Yep.
Robert Wrights was not denying any of it at all, but he was still not being removed from his University of Toronto position. He'd been racist, he'd been sexist, he'd put horrible positions, just so scary. And so I decided to go ahead and just submit that news report as the fucking complaint. And
Sure.
I never got an official response, but the president at the time did DM me on Twitter to tell me that, you know, they were looking into it and they were trying to see what was legal. And, you know, they just had to be really careful because what if the guy retaliated and countersued them? And
what if we all leave your shitty fucking society because you don't give a shit about protecting your more vulnerable members?
Yeah. What about that?
Then you can have a fun little club with all the people you're worried about retaliating. You all have a nice little tea party together. That sounds fun.
Yep. I don't think the guy was ever permanently banned. I'm not even sure he was banned from that meeting.
No. Oh, I think he was, but only because, like, literally, I think, and like, made a public stink again, and he only got banned from that meeting, and it was because they were like, we're afraid to go to this meeting if you're not going to protect me. And I mean, I have firsthand experience with SVP and this garbage too. It's different, but yeah, I mean, it's just like I was moderating a session at the 2024 meeting in Minneapolis. So I was introducing speakers. I was on stage next to this very problematic person who had a lot of complaints lodged against him. And he gave one of the scariest, most threatening talks I've ever been. It was really, really scary.
This is a paleontology conference. The talk should not be threatening.
Right. There's no reason for this. I had just given a talk about how we take care of the Dinosaur Ridge track site. And then this guy gets up and start talking about how oligarchs and all of these mobsters are evil. And he started calling out people in the audience and threatening people in the audience and telling everyone that he was punched in and out of Afghanistan to be here. And he had a dead girl in his arms just a few hours before he was there that day. Me and my co-moderator were writing on a note going, "We are so scared." We literally were writing to each other about how terrified we were. I kept envisioning my husband receiving my blood-soaked clothing because I thought this guy was going to turn around and blow my brains out. Literally, this is the only time I thought this is the closest I've ever felt of I'm going to die. And we later found about an hour later that he was armed, and he had been armed, and he had brought a bunch of assault rifles to that meeting, and his roommates that were staying with him were fucking terrified. Has SVP followed up with me about that once?
No, I don't think
they have. Do we even know where this human being is? I'm still afraid. What if he just shows up at my work? Like, they have never followed up. They have never, I feel like I was set up to moderate that session.
Did they ban him? Did they ban him even from that meeting?
Yes.
How long did it take, though?
Oh, they didn't want to call the cops.
Yeah.
It took me and my co-moderator bursting into tears and begging them to call the cops.
Yeah.
And they finally called the cops, and he was finally escorted out, and he was supposedly banned from the meeting, and he immediately went on Facebook and started making death threats to some of the leadership in SVP. Yeah. And then his roommates came forward and said, "We're terrified. He brought a ton of guns." Yeah. And
this is not unknown.
Where this individual is.
Didn't they give him a chance to revise his abstract?
Yes, which is not how I heard it was supposed to be. He had supposedly given a pretty unhinged talk at the, I think, Toronto meeting before this. Mm-hmm. People knew he was essentially not well and in not a good headspace. After this talk, I had a prominent dinosaur paleontologist who I cannot stand be like, "Oh, Amy, I had to leave." And I was like, "Well, fuck you, fucking." I couldn't leave. And he was like, "Oh, well, I knew he was crazy this summer. I had to kick him out of my field program because he was scaring people." And I was like, "Did you report that?" He said, "Oh, no, well, it wasn't my place." And I said, "Then whose place was it?" And I said, "Well, did you know he was giving this talk and doing this abstract?" "Well, I thought that they wouldn't accept it." "Did you say that?" "Well, no, I just assumed that they wouldn't have accepted it." "So then when you saw it was accepted, did you say anything?" "Well, no, it isn't my place." Fuck you.
Yeah.
Fucking. I'm still I'm terrified. I mean, I've spent a lot of therapy sessions on this. Let me tell you that.
Yeah.
A lot of therapy on that. I thought I was going to die. I thought he was going to just shoot me.
And I'm not saying that that's an easy situation to deal with, but I do feel like the number one thing would be calling the cops. Actually, the number one thing would be, that this individual has a history. If you're not familiar with how these conferences work, the way that they work is that if you want to present, you have to, in months ahead of time, submit an abstract of what you want to talk about. And SVP sends that out to peer reviewers, and they are technically considered peer-reviewed abstracts, where the peer reviewers say, oh no, that's crazy bonkers, or oh, that's good. And they told SVP, something to the equivalence of like, basically, the guy got usually you just get rejected. This guy got the opportunity.
Get rejected because he was using specific names of like straight up like criminals and oligarchs. And so they just said, take the names out. So when he was giving his presentation, one of these SVP leadership members stopped his talk and said, you agreed to not use any of their names. That's all he did. He didn't stop the session. He didn't say you're done. He just said you need to stop saying names, and he let the guy continue.
So it's not like they didn't have warning. The guy had been there before. The guy's abstract was crazy.
It's been confirmed that, actually, I shouldn't say that. It is very much assumed and known highly that he was faking his credentials.
Yes.
He was making up making up his affiliation. And when we asked the person who did this session, who interrupted, who paused it, he laughed and said, no, we don't check affiliations.
Do we want to say who this guy said that he was affiliated with?
He said he was a part of Department of Homeland Security.
Yeah. So he said that he was part of Department of Homeland Security and then went on a rampage claiming that paleontologists were poaching things and funding horrible stuff and working with oligarchs to get fossils.
War crimes. He was accusing all of us in that room of being war criminals.
And it turns out that maybe his affiliation was not correct. And SVP
he claimed to be a part of
never
the UN.
Checked.
No, SVP did not check. I know that someone else reported him for impersonating.
I don't know. You can't really fake a Homeland Security email address.
Right.
So did they look at his Yahoo submission email address?
They are so going back to this statement that SVP made where they are talking about their ethics committee. And then if you go to Blue Sky, people who are on the ethics committee and who are on the diversity committee are openly saying that this letter was not run by them. And then my friend who's a part of our friend who's a part of the communications committee reached out to me and said they did not include this with the communications committee either. So that means that they didn't check with any of these supposed functioning committees, which confirms to me what I've suspected for a long time, that they're all performative. The society is not actually interested in opening things up and making things more accessible and giving these different roles. They're going to keep their power within these few elite leadership positions, and they're going to just let these committees go for, you kids stay busy is what it feels like. But there's obviously no actual function to these committees. So if you go and say, I'm going to make a difference.
Too. It's often super young compared
career.
to the
early career
folks
because they
on these
tell
committees
you
who want to make a difference.
They tell you that if you want to get higher in SVP leadership, that you should be a part of a committee and work for free to do a bunch of unpaid labor that we don't care about. I mean, it's just it's taking advantage of the rosy glasses it's just. I've never been more I was super hurt by what happened to me last November or October. I still have hoped, I guess, in some ways that SVP would do the right thing or that I might hear from someone someday. And then to have this come out that they're going to go and say, okay, this isn't just oh, hey, Jack's name is in this here and there. He went to this fucking place. I don't give a shit if anything else happened. He is admitting that he worked with someone who we knew at this point in 2012 was a fucking sex criminal against minors. Shouldn't the association, why are we not... I don't understand. I'm not saying Jack did anything inappropriate while he was in New Mexico. I don't know. I wasn't there.
But we know he's done inappropriate stuff
yes.
at SVP
yes.
and that SVP
yes.
has been warned about it.
Yes. We know that for a fact because guess what? It turns out, even though we're ladies, we still have vocal cords, and apparently we can sometimes still use them, and it's not as easy to silence us as the Mary Anning Day, thanks to the advent of mini social media. And I just want to say that I knew and wasn't surprised to hear this at all, because when I got hired, well, when I had my interview, they flew me to Bozeman in September of 2017. I had this marathon day of interviews, and my last interview of the day was with the executive director of Museum of the Rockies at that time. She's now retired. And she and I, it was a one-on-one interview. She's the one who brought up Jack, because it was a bit of the elephant in the room about, like, you know, Jack's not here. And then she looked at me and she said, I never thought I'd have to make a policy that no one under the age of 18 can go into the field. And I wasn't even hired yet. This was during my interview. Yeah. I still don't entirely know why she said this to me. I'm sure she would deny it. I have no evidence. It was just me and her. But she told me that when I interviewed. And then, yeah, as I continued to work there, more and more creepy things just piled up between essentially soft porn in his office that I cleaned out and pictures of just some really disturbing pictures with him. And then you dig into the science part and it's like, okay, so whatever, you want to separate the scientists from the science? Fine. Well, then let's talk about his science. It's a bunch of bullshit too. Like, he's just not very well respected. You know, everyone calls him Dr. Horner. He does have an honorary doctorate. And I'm not trying to say that you need to have advanced degrees. However, he did not even get a bachelor's degree. Okay. He claims it's because of his dyslexia. That's fair. It probably before a lot of accommodations. However, when people just go, oh, he's a doctor, they assume a level of education that he then doesn't actually have. And if you start to look at a lot of his hypotheses and this stuff, he likes to throw a lot of big, sexy ideas out there and then really doesn't have a ton of evidence to back him up. He did not discover Maiasaura. That was discovered by Marion Brandvolt, a woman who owned that land out in Bynum, Shoto area of Montana. She knew when she found these eggs and baby bones what she had. I've read that it was actually her that said, hey, they must have been cared for. You know, again, this is just this family's word against Jack's. But he is written in books. It's the best discovery I've ever made. He didn't fucking discover it. Like, you named them. You named Maiasaura. But I'm so tired of people saying that he discovered Maiasaura. He didn't discover those fossils. Did he then go excavate more of them? Yes. But if it hadn't been for Marion Brandvold's discovery, none of this would have ever fucking happened. And it just, there's so many layers to this. The dino chicken thing is ridiculous. Everyone has heard of his obligate scavenger hypothesis, which is also just like not backed by a lot of evidence. Oh my gosh. He's also this huge proponent of, you know, none of these are different species. They're just babies or really old ones. So
I've been begging Amy to let me do a do dinosaur babies exist podcast episode.
Jack would say yes. So he has he believes that Torosaurus is actually the largest growth stage of Triceratops, which is pretty much bullshit. We have found juvenile Torosaurus fossils. He used to claim that Jane and Chomper, which they were called juvenile T-Rex specimens, are actually Nanotyrannus, which has been news this year. He also said that Stygimoloch and Dracorex are just juvenile forms of Pachycephalosaurus. That has also been, you know, not supported with more recent discoveries and all of this. I mean, and then it's just like the science isn't even that good. And then the personal stuff is, oh my God, he went on this thing back in like 2018. It was so funny. He's putting it all over social media. He was like, the best way to look at a dinosaur egg for an embryo is to smash it with a hammer. And like everyone, I mean, these are some big names who come out and are like, dear God, no, like CT scan it, X-ray it, like, please. Like, do anything but destroy it. And him being like, you can glue it back together. And it's just like, bro, like, it's not the 1970s anymore. We have technology that would preserve these fossils. So it's just like, there's just so many layers to this. And it is really gross. And I worked, my true boss at Museum of the Rockies was who was the, oh my God, Yeah, he was a lot. He hated me. He got really mad at me in 2019 because I went to the Dino Shindig at the Carter County Museum in Ekalaka. And I was very disappointed in their speakers. They had like 14 speakers at the event, and 12 of them were white men, or like 11 of them were white men, or men, I should say. And when they were called out on social media about this in the paleo education group, their curator, their executive director was like, "What are you talking about? We had lots of diversity. Some people talked about Pachycephalosaurus. Some people talked about Mosasaurus. We even had a mammal talk." And the whole community was like, "That's not what we're fucking talking about. Like, this isn't." So anyway, I went on then Twitter and said, Dino Shindig is pale, stale, and male, because it fucking was. Yeah. And about a month later, I got called into his office, and him and the curator sat me down, blocked me in there, and yelled at me for like 2 hours. The curator was like, sure, he's like this unassuming guy, but he was literally blocking my exit, and says to me, because he was horrified that I had said something out against the Carter County Museum, who's one of our sister museums of Museum of the Rockies. And he says to me, "We always stand by our friends. We always stand by our colleagues. Even if we don't agree with them, even if no matter what, even if we do not like what they're doing, we stand by them." And I swear to God, Megan, chills went down my spine, because I was like, what are you covering up? What are you covering up? And he kept yelling at me for like another hour or so. I just remember having snot running down my face. Neither of them gave me a break. Never of them offered me a tissue. I'm just wiping my tears and my snot on my shirt, like, as they're just screaming at me. And that was because I should have had loyalty to Museum of the Rockies. This man who was just screaming at me, I was supposed to be loyal to him, and that because he said so. And he used to tell these stories about how him and Jack would go party at the dorms at MSU 20 years ago, and he was in his 60s at that point. So I'm like, so you guys were creepy 40-year-old men partying in college dorm rooms? Like, just some fucked up shit, man. Some super fucked up shit. So it's just like, none of us have ever had, the people closest to this situation are not going to speak up. If you have noticed, Museum of the Rockies has gone radio silent in the last couple of days. None of them, who are usually avid Jack Horner supporters. In fact, you can see people who are employed by there commenting all over his Instagram posts with admiration, and they're not saying anything at all. And again, it's just, they know the most. And I'm horrified that, I knew at the time that they were never going to do the right thing, because he was telling me, we don't do the right thing. We do the thing that holds up these relationships and these partnerships. He said it to me. And so when all this comes out,
Epstein motto too.
Yeah, right. So what the fuck? Yeah. And then he tried to put me on suspension, tried to get me fired because he didn't like that I did an Olay ad on my Instagram. It was so stupid. So it was time to leave, but there's just so many layers to this that SVP has known for a very long time about these issues. It doesn't make any sense. My friend again is telling me, you should report it. And I'm going, why?
Why?
They don't listen to our reports. I would rather make a stink. I would rather make some noise.
Well, and like, they had a community meeting this afternoon, and they specifically said that if you weren't a member, you weren't allowed to talk at the community meeting, which I haven't been a member for a long time for a variety of reasons. Not just because I have a policy, which is that I don't pay to be sexually harassed, which would include not paying to go to these conferences. But also, I definitely don't pay through the fucking nose to go and be sexually harassed. And SVP, if you're listening to this and you're not a paleontologist and you're not a scientist, you might not understand why these conferences are such a big deal. And you would be correct, but the thing is that conferences and society memberships are like this weird, implicitly expected part of being a scientist, where you go to these conferences before you're done with your research. And the idea is, theoretically, you're supposed to present them and then like maybe get some ideas and feedback from people before you finish. That's never what happens. People go to piss on their section of research and tell the world about it so that nobody else bothers to go and do it. Like, that's what conferences are for. And SVP is particularly toxic to the extent where I don't think it's truly an SVP poster session if a older man has not made a student cry. If there's not a crying student at the poster session, it's not a fucking SVP poster session. So I don't go to that conference because why would I? It just seems like there's so many things in science and academia that just seem like they don't benefit me. They don't benefit my students. They don't benefit my friends. They don't even, at this point, really benefit old men. I guess they wouldn't have anybody to yell at if we didn't have poster sessions. But yeah, it's this weird habit that we're all kind of told that in order to be a scientist, you have to be a part of these memberships. And there's also this like thing where a lot of people wanting to go to graduate school and people wanting to like move to the next stage in their career are often told that they need to go to these conferences to network.
Absolutely.
And sure, you're going to meet a ton of people to network with. And that's part of why these conferences are important and why they have stuck around despite being toxic fests.
No,
but I don't think it's personally worth it. And I do tell students that if they want to go and try and meet some of their advisors and talk to them in person, like potential advisors, that it is a good way. But frankly, there are cheaper conferences that paleontologists go to that are better.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. I mean, and it's tricky. It's so tricky too, because I think a lot of us too have a nostalgia aspect. I loved my first few SVPs. Like they're so exciting. And I have had a lot of good successes come out of SVPs, whether that's, well, actually in hindsight, they've all been pretty shitty. That's where I met my master. That's where I met my graduate advisor. That's where I heard about the MOR job. The guy who's doing all of our exhibits right now, I've known him because of SVP meetings. So yeah, like there is important key networking that happens. And now I love to just go to just like show off my successes so all my enemies have to see me and be like, ha ha ha. But it sucks because like I love what they, in theory, stand for. I love what this field, in theory, stands for. Yeah. It's really hard to grapple with the reality of these places that I want to be a part of. I love the socializing. I never go to talks. Dude, sitting in that session was the longest I've ever sat in one session because I was moderating it. I was like, I'm so bored. But I go for the networking. I go for the connections. I go to see friends. I go for all of those reasons. And it is shitty to have to be like, okay, I mean, I'm just going to create my own like Paleo Fest at Dino Ridge or something to invite those people to see me or something. But it sucks because in theory, they're good. In practice, they're done by shitty humans who are not good. And it's really, and if you won't really
get rid of those people,
right,
there is no point to you.
Right. No, and that's where I've come to, SVP does not care about me. They're not interested in protecting. They're much more interested in upholding the old guard, the ivory tower, the exclusion game. And that's what, for whatever reason, it's not going to age well for them. These are choices that they have to live with. I'm disappointed in my friends who are in leadership, who are kowtowing to this and who are holding it up because, again, it's their own reputations. They feel like they have to, but that is how we get into these Jeffrey Epstein situations anyway, like do the right thing. And I also want to say, I should have said that at the beginning, a lot of people have had really great positive experiences with Jack. And I am not here to say that this man is pure evil, that this man is horrid, that everything he touches turns to horror. Like, I'm not saying that at all. I know quite a few people who have had great experiences with Jack. And guess what? Both of these things can fucking exist. One does not negate the
black
other.
Or white. I feel like people are like barcodes. They're just a series of good and bad and mediocre things. And and I think that it's important to recognize that, but it's also important to recognize that how it can hold you back sometimes.
Yes.
I remember when Greg Ritalik wiped ice cream off of my boob at a fucking party after years of making extremely inappropriate jokes and making me very uncomfortable and having a lot of rumors about him. I didn't want to get him fired because I knew that he was the only person who would work with some of our like more disabled grad students who had to like leave their advisors because they'd been discriminated against. And like he was really great about working with those people and he was really kind if you were sick. And I didn't want to fuck that up. But at a certain point, you and I both know this, they escalate. Like you have to draw a line somewhere because if you keep giving that inch, it just gets worse and worse and worse. And sometimes it's boundary testing and sometimes it's them just revealing who they are. But like, just because someone can be a good person in some ways doesn't mean that they're not fucking awful in ways that would require them to be removed from a position.
Right. And for me, so much of it is about taking that acknowledgement, taking the responsibility. I don't even need you to fucking apologize.
No.
It's just owning, like, you know, Jack's response. It's not taking ownership. It's, again, making excuses. It's essentially being defensive. That don't impress me much. You know, I'd really rather you have be like, I know this looks really fucking bad. Like, just own it. Like, and same with SVP, like, oh, this doesn't look good. You know, it's just such a choice. And it's a generation, it seems to be a generational divide in some ways, which is also interesting. And I'm just going like, you know, okay, like, and I'm sorry to folks and especially women who have of a different generation who did have to tolerate a ton of this shit and now is almost normalized it in some ways. That does not mean that you and I have to tolerate this shit in 2026 or anyone else. But I'm not over here encouraging people to go into paleontology when it's going to, especially if they look like me, if that means that I'm just setting them up for a hell of a lot of heartache and a bunch of just conflict, and it's not worth it. But it's so hard. I love this field with every little piece of me. It's a part of me. It's my community. It's my friends. It's my everything. And it's just, and that's why I feel so like, I worked at Museum of the Rockies, which benefited from being associated with Jeffrey Epstein. I have to grapple with that. And I'm over here going, I did that. I'm taking accountability. I fucking did that. And I fucking got out when I could because it was a shit show. And yes, it probably did help my reputation that I have that institution on my resume. Come on, everybody. Like, let's own our shit and be real and just like meet each other with, instead of this just like, oh my God, the smoke and mirrors and pretending that stuff isn't going on and gaslighting. It's just like a whole society of gaslighting. And it's just making me very, very, very disappointed in SVP. I'm super disappointed in SVP. And unless they just dramatically change their ways and change the dialogue around this and own up that let us do our investigation and we agree this is pretty concerning, which is kind of what I wanted, until you're willing to do that and are actually like maybe follow up with Wynn. Maybe follow up with the other women I know who have made valid ass complaints that you guys just said it's just hearsay. Because that's the other problem, Megan. We know this well. There is no way. What other way is there? There's no recourse for us when we submit an ethics complaint and they go, well, it's just hearsay. It's your word against usually his. So what the fuck are we supposed to do if it's not hearsay? It's truth, but there's no avenue for us to do this. All we have is the Whisper Network. All we have is I just tell students, hey, you don't want to work with so-and-so, or hey, before you go do field work with this person, here's what I know. It's your choice, but I just want you full transparency to know what has been heard about this person. But that's all I have. And it pisses me off. And we've talked about this for years, but how the fuck do we hold people accountable when it's constantly, well, it's just hearsay?
Well, and I mean, in Wynn's case, she was not the only person in the room.
Right.
You can ask other people. They saw it.
Right.
It's...
Right. How are they excusing this? Like, how is this so easy to just disregard, to sweep under a rug, and just, what excuses are they telling themselves to justify this?
Sued. They're afraid of being sued, even though by their own rules, they would win. And frankly, if SVP was getting sued by somebody because they kicked them out for bad behavior, I would be happy to rejoin SVP and give them my money to fund defending themselves. Yeah. Like, that is a valid use of our money. What we're currently using it for fucking sucks.
Right. It's super true. Yeah. It's really sad. So yeah, I didn't want to be done. I was low key like looking forward to doing a presentation on our cool research at an SVP down the road. And now I'm like, nah, fuck it. GSA. I mean, GSA isn't perfect either by any means, but you know, it's at least cheaper.
They get back to you.
Yeah. At least they get back to you. At least they're cheaper. Yeah. But I mean, yeah, it's really hard. And to some of our friends who are trying to change SVP within, like, I admire that, but I'm also like, save yourself. Like, it's not worth your time and effort. It doesn't seem like they're they're not giving me any indication that they're willing and open to change. So how much more evidence do we need to see that let's just wipe our hands of this society, let them be their little esoteric group, let them enjoy their little ivory tower circle jerk, and can we start a new society? Like, right. But I want to create ways for people to network safely and for people to share their research safely. And SVP has just really crumbled my confidence in the last 2 years, especially.
And the thing is, like, you never know who it's gonna be. I have written with people who got fired for sexual harassment. I've got a paper out with a person who at the time I had no idea. She got fired because she was sexually harassing a graduate student. We're co-authors on a paper. She stopped emailing us back at a certain point because, well, we thought that she was having trouble getting tenure. Turns out she was being investigated to be eventually fired. But like, you have to be, and like, I'm currently co-authoring 2 papers with someone who I won't name, but like has a not great reputation that we know isn't awesome. But also, I don't want to cut him off of the papers because he was a very big part of the contribution. And I do feel like you can get into some trouble by cutting people off of papers if they have actually genuinely contributed to them. Intellectual property, you know?
And it goes back to how insular and tiny our field is. You can't really publish on that topic that I know you are working on because without that individual, because of how small the field is. And it's just, like, it's pretty much impossible to avoid that person. And so it's right. And so I'm in that quandary too with someone that who does not work at my organization, but I sometimes, and I'm just, but
the thing is, like, you know, and I didn't know for sure when we started that project. If I had known, I wouldn't have started that project.
But how do we tell people, right? Without it being hearsay.
Yes. And the thing is, I think that when you are in charge of something like a conference, or honestly, even like a Discord group, you have a responsibility to be the person who is willing to lay down the law. Like, you have rules, you have to be willing to follow them.
Right.
Because I think it's I'm part of a Discord group in paleontology where I haven't checked in on this in a while, but there was someone who, stalked another member and was really scary and crazy, and lots of valid complaints and lots of people watching it. And I don't think that the moderator has kicked them out still. And I understand that it can be very difficult to hear that someone that you liked and know is doing things that mean that they are not worth associating with. It's unpleasant. I know that I saw on Blue Sky the other day, like, someone was like, why don't we start listing all the people that are like amazing and wonderful to work with in paleontology? And I was like, what a surefire way to ensure. Well, and you don't know. You don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
And I saw another thread.
Pat Lubinsky's amazing. He's been fantastic to me. I only know my experiences with him, and I'm worried that if I put him on that list.
Right. I think that should be evidenced in itself, and lists in general are crazy. But then I saw someone commenting on that being like, really interesting to see someone super problematic in paleo, like listing a bunch of people who are good. And, when there are no guidelines, parameters, agreed upon conditions, then it quickly can be a way of covering your ass or trying to make a positive legacy for yourself. Like, it's a good way to cover your tracks. And it's just really icky. Like, I hate, a lot of times groups in general just don't, it's a slippery
You got to
slope.
be willing to be the bitch. Amy and I have been the bitch. We have worked to make sure that is on the record, and it fucking sucks. And it sucks, especially if you respected somebody. It really hurts.
And to me, they can come back, especially if it's not being associated with a pedophile. That is a bit of a, because I face this in a cancel culture and other fields and things like that. And I really do think for me, it's all about taking some accountability. I will give you a lot of do-overs or another shot if you're able to self-reflect and be like, my bad, I fucked up. Yeah. That is even just apparently very hard to do.
I had this project. I was incredibly passionate about it. I couldn't get funding. The only person I could find funding from was Jeffrey Epstein. I am embarrassed that I ever sunk that low. I'm going to work really hard in the future. Here's XYZ things that I'm donating to. Here's the things that I am involved in to improve the field. Here's the therapist I'm fucking seeing.
Right.
Giving us actual actions. Own it and show us how you are
Don't just
making
get
the world a better place. Don't just get defensive and lie.
Right, and deflect and try and
Yeah.
distance yourself from it. Be an adult, own up, this shit happened, that you played by it for maybe psychological reasons and maybe some of, but it's just, I can do a lot of forgiveness as long as people actually own up. But the problem I've seen so often in paleo is that they are in denial and very headstrong about having done nothing wrong. And then they do turn around and sue when they finally get forced out. And it's just, and then they win in some ways. So yeah, I don't have a conclusion for what should happen. I just am disappointed in the Society of Vertebrate Paleontology. I'm disappointed but not surprised by this new development with Jack Horner. I feel good about the stance I've had towards him for a very long time, which is, oh my God, there was one time he was visiting. I did have to work with him a couple of times. And I was doing a tour upstairs in the exhibit hall, and he was there with wife number 5, who I think he's still married to. And this group was like, oh, could we get a picture with our group and Jack and you? And I was like, no. I was like, and I did it. I took this picture. I stood as far from him as I possibly could. I'm probably grimacing. So somewhere out there, there is a picture of me and Jack. And like, I don't like that. I didn't like it at the fucking time. I just remember at the time being like, ew, oh, I don't want to be in this picture. It's just, so yeah, I mean, but again, he could change my mind on a lot of this, and SVP could totally change my mind on a lot of this. But stop treating us like we're dum-dums. Stop treating us like this is hearsay. Stop treating us like our experiences aren't valid. It's just because other people's experiences are good. That doesn't invalidate those of us who've had negative experiences. Let's be holistic about this. Let's be transparent about it, and let's just own our shit. But until then, I'm going to GSA. It's in Denver this year, guys. So come on by and visit Dinosaur Ridge. You should come.
Go.
Yeah, because now we could do IGMU there, because I'm definitely not going to do it at SVP. So yeah, and it's going to be here. You can stay with us, except for our house is pretty far from the conference center. Any final thoughts? We've been going a while.
I know, we've been going for quite some time. It's just, I feel like there's a lot of people who come into paleontology expecting it to not have predators and not have problems. But anytime that you have hero worship of any kind, it does start to elevate someone's... Yeah, it gives them a sense of power. And I think in science, it becomes particularly obnoxious because a lot of us, when we were in high school and younger, were told that we were weird. And so to suddenly be given like this power and this prestige, I think makes them even worse, which does not excuse it at all.
Or you couldn't read very well because of your terrible dyslexia. And now you're treated like a rock star. Like, of course, we are human. We are fallible to ego and all of this, but go to fucking therapy, man. Get a therapist.
Yep.
Seriously.
And if a man helicopters himself into your dinosaur dig and he tells you that he's going to make all of your dreams monetarily come true, at least Google if he is a pedophile first.
Yes. Just a general advice. There you go.
And then, you know what? Actually, the way I want to end is we're paleontologists. We're not finding a cure for cancer. There's no fucking timeline on paleontology. They've been dead for a very long time. They can be undiscovered and understudied for a very long time yet to come. And you don't need to accept money from a pedophile because nobody will fucking die if you don't.
Exactly. Like, it does go back to, we are not saving lives. Even if you reverse engineer a fucking chicken, that's going to take more human lives, apparently, based on that movie. And so... But like, that is such a good point, because I hear this a lot too. It's like, this justification for what? Some Cretaceous seashells and for some dinosaurs?
Do you know how many projects I have that I couldn't get funded and I just didn't do?
Right.
Move on.
But it's true. We are not saving lives. And we're not saving the planet. We are not causing, like, at least not this brand, not his brand of paleontology. So, or any for that matter. But it's like, some people study like cancer and deep time, and that might have helpful things. But
still try not to take money from pedophiles, but like,
right. But it's such a good point.
You have a little bit of a better argument.
Why on earth was reverse engineering a chicken worth that association? Yeah, exactly. I could justify it if it was my dying child, the only thing to save these unhoused children. If it was, like, something that actually seemed worthy, but we are just talking about big dead chickens. So it is not rocket science. It is not cancer research. Let's put it in perspective that there is no funding for a dino project that is worth the suffering of another human being.
Yep. Yeah, and at some point we're going to talk about blood amber right along those exact same lines.
Oh, goody!
Yay!
If you feel frustrated about this like we do and you want to do something about it, might we suggest that you reach out to svp@vertpaleo.org. That's svp@vertpaleo.org. And we hope that you get a response.
Special thanks to Max for his extra work editing on this one. It was a beast to work with.